Hello everybody and welcome to Group 1's presentation. For our presentation we decided we wanted to look at film reviews, so we chose the Avengers Endgame as a source of film. What we did was we all chose a different film review as our text and analysed it, with our main primary focus being the tenor, the audience. We'll be talking about how our analysis of language contributes to the appropriate audience of our given texts. Text A will be led by Ella, Text B will be led by myself, Saima, and finally, Kieran will be leading Text C.
Text A is clearly written by a young author and therefore the review is catered towards a non-specialist younger audience. This is due to the fact that the register is very colloquial and informal, as the writer uses ellipsis such as "can't forget about the fact that," "visuals were beautiful," and "same with Paul Rudd," where the writer seemingly omits the second person personal pronoun of you in "can't forget about the fact that," the article definite determiner "the" in "visuals were beautiful" and "same with Paul Rudd," as well as lexical choices, including the repeated base adjective overstuffed, the relational noun bunch, physical verb chills, base adjective awesome, concrete noun ass, and physical verb hype. This suggests the writer is lazy, as there is a sense they cannot be bothered to write out a grammatically complete sentence, omitting the first word from the start of the sentences. This is further reinforced by the use of contractions such as didn't, it's, and I'd that reinforces the informality the writer is portraying. This creates a narrow distance between the writer and the reader, as this shows the writer as being warm and friendly. Furthermore, there are implied elements of spoken modality which are suggested through the use of capitalization and contractions that might show the text as being multimodal. For example, through the object and noun phrase of "America's ass" and base adjective "awesome," where the use of implicature might suggest the writer is verbally exclaiming. It is clear the writer has an obsession with Marvel films, and this is shown through the simple declarative of "I love you 3000," which comes across as the writer worshipping the film. Furthermore, there seems to be some pragmatic underlying understanding needed here in this particular instance, as this is, in fact, a direct quote taken from the film. This creates a discourse community as it uses this language to exclude people, as it is not understood by all readers. A discourse community is defined by John Swales as groups that have goals and purposes and use communication to achieve their goals. This is evidently applicable to this source, as the writer clearly intends to create a discourse community with the audience through the shared understanding within the text shown through the direct quotation. Yet in the context, any non-specialist reader would be able to understand the meaning, despite the implicature within the semantical meanings of the quote, that has underlying meanings for audiences part of the fandom of Marvel and Avengers Endgame. Not only does the register of the text cater to a younger audience, the discourse structure of the text is broken up by subheadings such as positives, negatives, and overall that disrupts the fluidity of the text, but making it clearer for younger audiences to understand it. It also reinforces the idea that the writer is younger too, as the review is simplified down.
Text B has been taken from a website called imdb.com. The website is an online blog in which people can leave reviews for film and TV. It doesn't cater for a specified target in terms of age, nor does it have a specified age range of writers. I would say it is a website designed for people who want to explore different reviews and opinions on a film before going to watch it. The target audience would be a mainstream audience. At first glance of the text, it is noticeable that the writer of the blog uses a lot of first-person plural nouns, such as we and our. This suggests that the writer is inclusive towards its reader. The use of the nouns creates an atmosphere of community within the Marvel fandom, which makes the reader engage towards the review. Followed by this, the writer goes on to say, many theories related to this have been put forward. This creates the sense of objectivity in the beginning of the review, as the writer is taking into account other theories and opinions on the film. This furthers the idea of community, creating a sense of truth on the analysis and review of the film. The reader may gravitate towards the review as it includes theories that they may oblige to. Louise Roseblatt posed the reader response theory. She insisted the reader's own personal thoughts and feelings contributes to the author's text in order to create meaning for the individual reader themselves. The choice of the first person plural nouns and the objectivity at the beginning allows the reader to respond themselves to the review, therefore creating a narrow relationship between reader and writer. Although the beginning of the review does start off as being objective in order to cater towards the mainstream audience of readers, the writer uses a variety of opinionated and descriptive lexical choices. For example, the use of the superlative adjective "the most" in the phrase "Avengers Endgame was undoubtedly the most anticipated film of recent years." This followed with the verb anticipated is an opinion formed by the writer. Other examples of descriptive language is the use of the base adjective, such as great. Avengers Endgame is above all a great homage. Successful, emphasized with the adverb really, in action and battle scenes are really successful. Not only are these choices of words descriptive, but the choice of really and even the superlative adjective discussed above puts emphasis on the reader's tones, making it more of a discussion of the writer's views and making it accessible for the reader. We can clearly see that the register is catered towards a mainstream audience as it is easy to follow.
The film review was published 2 days prior to the film's release in the UK and 3 days before the film's release in the United States. As a result of reading this review, this could help to increase the excitement of the audience members, as the film has received a very glowing endorsement from O'Hara. This may also be the first piece of information that they have learned about the film. O'Hara uses technical language throughout to relay her film knowledge to the reader. For example, she references films throughout the entirety of her review when she mentions the Lord of the Rings film Return of the King, Avengers Endgame's prequel Avengers Infinity War, and the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe in which Endgame is a part of. She also makes reference to screenwriters Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. This is interesting because in a more mainstream review, as was the case with Simon, you rarely would get to hear of these people being mentioned, which as a result increases O'Hara's credibility as a film critic and gives the impression that she is knowledgeable. When she also tends to make a criticism of the film, she makes reference to a scene that is uncharacteristically clumsy. Again, this suggests she knows of the high standards that Marvel set themselves in their filmmaking, and could also reinforce that she is a long-term viewer of Marvel films and will be aware of these standards that Marvel hold themselves to. When O'Hara discusses the opening of the film, a semantic field linked to the 5 stages of grief can be seen. She discusses the ideas of grief, loss, depression, about there being drastic lifestyle changes, alcoholism, and fury as a result of Thanos' actions at the end of Avengers Infinity War, and the consequences that the surviving characters have to deal with. In terms of informal language, O'Hara showcases this when referring to some of the film's characters. This can be most notably seen when she describes Captain America as Cap, as well as describing Thanos as a mad titan at the start of the film, and also later referring to him as the Purple Bastard. Here, O'Hara is able to use these nicknames for these characters, as the audience will most likely be aware of who she is discussing when she's using these nicknames. O'Hara can also be seen to be using slightly conversational language, and there's 2 examples of this when it says in the review, except maybe, and when she says, call it physical comedy. Here, the impression is created that she is relaxed and trying to have a conversation with the reader either through the page if they're reading this review in the magazine, or through their computer screen or smartphone if they are reading the review online. To conclude, we have looked at 3 different film reviews for the film Avengers Endgame that have been written to suit 3 different audiences, these being young people for text A, a mainstream audience for text B, and film fanatics for text C. We have seen how each writer of the respective review has tailored their language in order to suit their target audience, such as the use of subheadings for a younger audience, as well as balancing the use of technical language and more informal language across all 3 film reviews. We have seen the work of scholars such as Swales and Myers and discussing the ideas of a discourse community and their ideas being showcased in each review. Thank you very much for listening, and we welcome any questions.